Blessings from my noble queen. Yes, it is again I, the conspicuous moo. I have been accepted back into the Night Fae. Again. Probably with some serious reservations on Her Majesty's part, given this is now my 4th stint as a tree-licking feline stomper. I'm surprised, to be honest, that I haven't been strung up to the nearest swirly tree, but that's Queenie for you. She's always prepared to give you another shot, as long as you're not drust. Anyway, let's get cracking on with the monk changes in the latest builds of 9.0.5, the patch that offers you Valor and Tuning, all for the bargain cost of waiting months for anything resembling new content. Let's deal first with the conspicuous moo cow in the room, the undocumented changes on the public test realm for Windwalkers. This is a very complicated cookie, but Babylonius from the Peak of Serenity Discord has very kindly taken a big bite out of it for us. Incidentally, if you're a monk that wants to learn and improve and hang around with fellow hand slappers, then you really should be on Peak of Serenity. It's an absolute gold mine with actual gold in it that you can put on your cornflakes every morning. I will put a link in the description. Anyway, back to Babylonius. The first change regards the Fists of Fury clipping trick that has been part of the Windwalker rotation for some time, and has come back to greater prominence with the Kyrian ability Weapons of Order. Basically what you do is you clip your Fists of Fury channel with another ability after the first global cooldown, and your Storm, Earth and Fire clones will continue to cast Fists of Fury, giving you a DPS increase from the clones themselves. Now this has been fixed on the public test realm, so the clones will now clip their Fists of Fury when you do, and Babylonius has mathed this change out to be about a 5 to 6% damage loss single target as a result, so that's big sadness. The other major change was to Mark of the Crane, which is the 10% buff to spinning crane kick damage for every target that you've hit with either Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick or Rising Sun Kick in the last 15 seconds. Now on live currently this stacks to 6, and the stacks will stay the same even if one of the affected targets dies. So for example, if you're attacking 3 monsters and you have 3 stacks of Mark of the Crane, one dies, you'd still have your 30% buff to spinning crane kick for slapping the remaining 2. Now on the public test round, those stacks are now dropping as soon as the affected target dies, so instead of 30%, it's now a 20% buff, because you only have 2 enemies left. Now this change is harder to quantify in terms of overall damage loss because of the enormous amount of variables involved, but you know, essentially the more targets, the bigger this DPS loss is going to be. Now, of course, it wouldn't be software coding without something else unraveling entirely when you've made some changes, and the code does not disappoint here. New bugs with evil, chitinous intent have appeared on the public test realm that every Windwalker will hope are fixed by the patch release that is supposed to be this month. Mark of the Crane stacks on the PTR now only cap at 5 and not 6 stacks. Now, I hope, and I hope everybody else hopes, that this is a bug, because, you know, otherwise it's an even bigger kick in the nullies to spinning crane kick damage. And it appears that the Storm, Earth and Fire clones are currently not copying your abilities like they're supposed to. Now, the theory at the moment is that they're not inheriting your stats, such as haste, and so they just simply can't keep up with your casts. You know, the poor mites are trying to do the blackout kick you cast several seconds ago without the 20% haste that you have. So none of this is good news for Windwalkers really, and it appears, at least for the moment, that our time as one of the stronger melee DPS specs is coming to a close. There are a couple of things to point out, however. Firstly, this isn't final, so don't log on and delete your Eddie Honda just yet. Secondly, both the Fists of Fury clipping and Mark of the Crane stacks thing were bugs that are now finally being addressed by Blizzard after a period of time so long that they've just become part of the rotation. You know, we may even get buffed to compensate for these DPS losses. And, you know, even if we don't, it's still going to be a valuable and rewarding DPS spec to play. There is nothing, in my humble bovine opinion, that matches Windwalker in terms of just raw enjoyment. And, you know, in these content-stricken times, that's very valuable to have. Moving on to live, where, if reports are to be believed, the subscriber base is rapidly departing until the whiff of new adventures invades their nostrils. You'll be waiting for that whiff a while. In Castle Nathria, Lady Minerva Darkvein got a few more nerfs on Raid Finder, normal and heroic difficulties, while the Hungering Destroyer and Sun King encounters got a few nerfy tweaks on mythic difficulty. We're talking minor health reductions in terms of Hungering Destroyer, damage reductions, and more heals going into Sun King as well. So there's nothing major here, and it seems to be a little late for dialing down the raid, but they generally do this when the raid has been out for a certain period of time, so whatever. Sanguine Depths is getting more nerfs, and I can't say that I'm sad about that, given that, every time you go to Wowhead and look at the best and worst dungeons for the Mythic Plus key cycle that week, the depths are always that bottom tier. You might as well eat your key with HP source than actually run it, but, feel free to choose the condiment of your choice. Specifically, General Carl's Gauntlet Run will be 10% less healthy, so you'll be able to get through it quicker, and there's quite a hefty 20% damage nerf to Regal Mist Dancer's Echoing Thrust. They'll also cast it less often, and I think we can all be grateful for the reduced thrusting because, seriously, those guys. Mythic representation in 15 keys and higher, according to Radar.io, continues to be mildly depressing for monks. While 14% representation isn't a terrible figure compared to most of the other tanks, Demon Hunters are still way out in front, and why hasn't this been fixed yet? If you look at the top 20 of Radar.io tanks, they are all Demon Hunters. It's not as if this is something that's just cropped up out of the blue. They've been like this for the entire start of Shadowlands. The Mistweaver representation is just utterly, utterly dismal. I mean, Holy Priests are now getting taken almost twice as often as we do. That is... I don't have a word for what that is. It certainly suggests that Mistweavers in general need more utility to bring to the table, because it's not the healing power that they're actually lacking. Windwalkers continue to fly the monk banner at the pinnacle of the Mythic Plus meta, but if the changes mentioned earlier go live, then I would expect that number to drop significantly. Now, I wish I could say that the representation numbers are wildly better the lower the Mythic Plus key you go, but that just simply isn't the case. And unfortunately, this is what the meta does and why it's not a good thing. It could also be the fact that monks are the least played class in World of Warcraft, so naturally, of course, our numbers would reflect that. However, I feel if Mistweavers were top of the tree, they wouldn't be 4% of the healing population. The perception that we're not worth taking is also going to take some time to break, but it is absolutely worth the effort. Let's end on a more positive note. Now, as regular watchers of this channel might have noticed, I have been bemoaning the lack of content for players with one character, and, another week in the world of world quests hasn't changed that. However, I did have a revelation that I wanted to share with you. Now, I rolled alts recently for storyline purposes, and to try and extend my flagging interest in the game. Now, Holy Priests and Protection Warriors are staples of my Warcraft history, so I naturally went to those first. Despite this, I was still happiest when playing my Monk, because, let's face it, Monk is an amazing class. It's quick, it's versatile, it's fun, it's in your face, it's breathing fire, it's roundhouse kicks and lightning fast fists, it's weird green hand waving in the background, it's peekaboo teleportation, it's kick of the rising sun, the smash of cakes and the paralysis of our enemies. I actually, honestly, came quite close to letting my subscription lapse this week, and it was coming back to my little monkish maniac from inferior alts that actually brought me back into the light, and presumably the chi. So I don't care what people say, all three specs are viable, they're distinctive, and most importantly for me, they're great fun to play. Now, are they perfect? Of course not. I mean, where, for example, is my spear hand strike when I'm healing? Will there ever be a version of Storm, Earth and Fire that isn't bugged to Chuppa Chups and back again? And why is Shadowlands stagger 20% below Battle for Azeroth stagger when they made a like-to-like switch? At the end of the day, playing should be about how much fun you're having, and my bovine brain responds best to the monk class. The meta can go chi torpedo off a cliff. Anyway, that's enough mooing from me. I hope you enjoyed today's offering. Let me know what you think of this format. I like to try different things out, and feedback is always welcome. Positive, negative, whatever. As always, if you can like, comment, subscribe, and moo, all of those would be appreciated. I will be back soon enough with my promised lament on the Shadowlands professions, which is taking a little more time than I thought it was going to. But until then, I and the conspicuous moo and may the Zen be with you.